familiar with them. Moms Demand Action is a grassroots movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence. They work to pass stronger gun laws and close the loopholes that jeopardize the safety of our families. They work in our communities and with business leaders to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership. Moms Demand Action knows that gun violence is preventable, and they are committed to doing what it takes to keep families safe. Moms Demand Action embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion. There is a volunteer chapter in every state of the country and Washington, D.C., and it is part of every town for gun safety. The largest gun violence prevention organization in the country with nearly 10 million supporters. We welcome this evening two people, actually three, but two are our main speakers. First of all, Linda McFadden Ketchum is the volunteer co-lead for legislative work for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America and Tennessee. She works with other Tennessee moms to pass common sense gun laws in Tennessee and to defeat gun bills that would endanger Tennesseans. Before taking on the legislative role, Linda served as chapter lead for 5 years. She started Moms Demand Action groups in Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Tri-Cities, Williamson County, Murfreesboro, and Cookeville. And I'm exhausted just reading that all, Linda. Carol Buckley Frazier is a volunteer leader with Med Tennessee Moms Demand Action. She is a longtime Nashville resident and community activist, and wife and mom of 3 grown kids and 1 small dog, Bella. She is a fitness and wellness professional and also a makeup hairstylist in our film, TV production community. Her passion is helping people get healthy and strong, feel beautiful, and avoid being shot and killed. And then we're going to meet Jeannie a little later because Jeannie is the other person you see there is a survivor. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Please note, okay, our chat is disabled. Could you do something about that, Tracy? I'm going to go ahead and start us, but Tracy's going to work on getting our chat abled. All right, so we're going to move on. Just one moment. All right. Can you all see the screen?
Yep.
And you probably see pictures. I'm going to minimize all those. Great. So I think this will look even better. There we go. That looks even better. All right. Gun Sense for Tennessee. How do we get there? I'm going to turn this over to Linda. If you would start our webinar this evening.
All right. Thanks, League of Women Voters, for inviting Carol and me and Jeannie to join you. We are I guess we're all League members. I have been for a long time. I love the League of Women Voters, and we thank you for all you do. Can we go on to the next slide? Can we go on, Marilyn?
I did. Do you not see it?
I'm still seeing the first one.
Okay. Huh. Let me do it. I don't know why that. Let me bear with me. Let's do it again.
Okay.
No worries, girl.
I don't know why it paused. How's that?
Okay. All right. So, MOMS is a 10-year-old national organization dedicated to lowering the death and injury rate from shootings. We're a baby organization, and the League is a grandmother organization, I'd say. Y'all are over 100 years old, I think. We were begun by Shannon Watts, who was an Indianapolis mother who was distressed by the Sandy Hook school shooting in December of 2012, and she went online to look for a grassroots organization she could join, and she could not find one, so she started Moms Demand Action. She has just retired after 10 years as our founder and leader, and we have a brand new executive director. We are part of Everytown for Gun Safety. We are in every state. As Marilyn said, there are 10 million of us. You don't have to be a parent or a woman to join. You have to have gun sense. And that means you understand that we can respect the Second Amendment, but also pass laws that keep us safe. We're mothers and others. Next slide, please. So let's just review where we are. You all know it's not a good place. There were 686 mass shootings in our country in 2021. And for the first time ever, guns are now the leading cause of death for children and young people in the United States and in Tennessee. Used to be car wrecks, but guess what? We worked on highway safety and automobile safety and got those numbers down. And now fewer children die in wrecks and more in shootings, which is a terrible, terrible thing. Between 12 and 2021, gun violence, gun death in Tennessee increased 52% compared to 39% nationwide. We are 11th in the country for gun deaths, or we were when we put this slide together. It may be worse now. We're quite a bit higher than the national average. All right. Oh boy. In 2022, 18 Tennessee children were involved in unintentional shootings. We don't call them accidents because they are not. Unintentional shootings are caused when an adult does not secure their gun properly. 8 of those children died, 8 lived, and 2 of the children were 2 years old. You may have been told or heard that a little kid cannot fire a handgun. They certainly can. They're very easily fired. 54% of deaths by gun in Tennessee are suicide. Then nationally, the number's a little bit higher. And throughout the country, we lose, or 65 people are taken every day because they end their lives with a gun. Vanderbilt recently did some polling and learned that 2/3 of us in our state fear they or someone close to them will be shot. And now I'm going to pass to Carol to introduce Jeannie.
So Jeannie is one of our wonderful volunteers and survivors. And we want her to tell her story. This is her cousin Tracy. And I'm just gonna let her tell her story for you.
Hi, I'm Jeannie, and this is my cousin Tracy. It was 2016, and I got a phone call from my dad that said that my cousin had died. She had been in an abusive marriage and got divorced and went on a date with someone else, and that someone else posted something on her Facebook page about what a great date it was, and her ex-husband came over to her house, which she had just bought. It was a new house to her, and he came over and had a handgun and shot her with that first, and then went back to the car and got out his AR-15 and just kept shooting everything. She had 2 kids. He had a kid before they got married. Her 2 kids were there. One of them ran next door to make a phone call from the neighbor's house, and the other one ran upstairs and used her cell phone to make a call, but basically was able to watch everything from her bedroom window. She had started an education nonprofit in her town in Ohio. She was as you can see from the picture, beautiful and full of life. And I miss her every day. But she is one of many women who die from domestic violence related gun deaths. And so, yeah.
How are the kids doing now?
They're okay. I mean, they were adopted by their aunt, and they are, one is in college, one had a baby and dropped out of college. But they are as well as can be expected, I guess.
Mhm. And the boy or the former husband,
Oh, after
and
he killed Tracy, oh, I forgot half of the story. I'm sorry. After he killed Tracy, the police were called and the police arrived. And so he tried to provoke them into shooting him, and they didn't. He's white. So then he went and laid down next to her body and shot himself. So
Well, thank you, Tracy, for sharing that with us.
we at Moms, when we hear a story like this, we like to say the person's name. And so I'll say Tracy Fletcher Garrett and invite you all to say it. Yeah, I know most of us are muted, but we can say it anyway. Tracy Fletcher Garrett.
thank you.
The Fletcher Garrett.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're coming all over to you, Marilyn.
We are. We have a poll now that's going to come on that's going to ask basically, have you been personally affected by a shooting? Has someone in your circle, and that means really beyond your family, it means someone you know. Has someone you know, I'm going to substitute that, been injured or killed with a gun? Has someone you cared about been shot in a mass shooting? If yes, and we're going to do the poll here in a minute with our help. Here you go. If you could answer the question. All right, so shall I share the results? I think I can. Tracy, yes? I think you can see we've got 36% said yes, they've known someone personally, and 64 said no. But that's still a very large number. And we've got 14% have known someone in a mass shooting. I just think, is that a number that you would have expect to report early in your lifetime? Thank you. That's interesting and alarming.
All right.
Moving on. Okay, let me get rid of
I thought it was important, or we thought it was important to kind of set the table so that we can have a little understanding about how we got where we are today, which is what we call guns everywhere. But so going back in time, I could not find any indication that it's ever been illegal in our state to keep a gun in your home for home protection or for hunting. That's a long tradition in our state. But we don't register guns here, so no one knows how many people in our state have guns in their homes because we don't keep records. And up until the mid-90s, just about 25 years ago, it was illegal to carry a handgun outside your home, with a few exceptions. if you met one of the exceptions, you could only carry your handgun in your hand, not concealed, and not in a holster. And most of those exceptions were, I'm not talking law enforcement, were military veterans who, brought their guns home from Korea in the World War II. But I mean, carry outside the home was really not common in our state as recent as the mid-90s. Next slide. So in the mid-90s, this began to change, and the legislature enacted a law authorizing the county sheriffs to issue permits. And the permits, of course, were all different because we have 95 sheriffs and they only applied in the county where they were issued. So there was quite a bit of confusion and dissatisfaction. So in 1996, the legislature transferred the permitting authority to the State Department of Safety, and we now call it Safety and Homeland Security, where it still is. And since that time, and especially in the last 10 to 15 years, our lawmakers have relaxed our gun laws to bring us to where we are today. So who can't purchase a gun in our state? You may not purchase or possess a gun in our state if you have any felony or any stalking conviction. If you're a fugitive from the law, you may not purchase a gun. If you're convicted of a hate crime, if you are a domestic abuser subject to an order of protection or a restraining order, undocumented non-citizens may not be armed. Anyone who's been judicially committed or adjudicated mentally defective or appointed a conservator because of a mental defect, that's not the way we would describe folks like that. That's in our law. They're called mental defectives. If you are addicted to or illegally using drugs and alcohol, and please don't ask me how we keep track of that. I'm not sure, and I forgot to get the answer before tonight. But yeah, we all agree that drugs and alcohol don't mix well with firearms. Okay, who can purchase? You have to be 18 to purchase a long gun. You have to be 21 to purchase a handgun. But because of a recent court case, you can carry a handgun you possess openly or concealed in many places. This just happened last March. So if you are not 21, you can carry a gun that you might have gotten either illegally or as a gift, but you may not go out and buy one. If you purchase a gun from a federally licensed firearm dealer, they're called FFLs for short, you must undergo a background check. If you purchase from a private seller online or at a gun show or in a parking lot, you do not have to undergo a background check. And this is legal, and it is called the gun show loophole.
So what safety training is required? If you carry without a permit, and that calling that permitless carry, which was signed in 21, no training is required. So remember that 18-year-olds can do this now without any training, permitless carry. The Department of Safety administers 2 levels of gun permits. One is enhanced and one is concealed carry. Many people still want gun permits because they are necessary to carry a gun into other states, and this is called reciprocity. Permitting requirements for an enhanced permit. So you have to apply online, Department of Safety website, complete an 8-hour in-person safety class. That includes a live fire demonstration. So we have to show that you can use that gun. You make an appointment at a driver's license office. You show proof of citizenship and your social security number, have your photo taken. You pay $100. It's good for 8 years. The safety class is the additional charge, and you get fingerprinted. This is the beginning of the background check. Process is similar to the enhanced permit requirement, except you can only carry concealed. Required safety class can be online, minimum of 90 minutes training. You don't have to show that you can fire that gun. No in-person training, you pay $65. This number tells us that, you know, we've got over 725,000 Tennesseans that are holding handgun permits. So where is carrying concealed weapons not permitted? Judicial and federal buildings, that includes post offices, public schools, buses, property owned, operated, or in use by a school. So that would be school property, game fields, that kind of thing. Private schools posted no firearms allowed. Also anywhere if you are drinking alcohol or under the influence of drugs. Of course, we don't know if you're under the influence, but public recreational buildings, civic centers, all other government buildings, and anything that where it's posted no firearms allowed.
Okay.
Linda, you want to take this? Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Carol. So what are some policy solutions that we at Moms have been working on and support? You've all heard about red flag laws or extreme risk protection order laws. That's our top priority. It's already been adopted or enacted in 21 states and the District of Columbia. We also support safe storage and requiring reporting of stolen or lost guns. Our state does not require safe storage. And you know that hundreds and hundreds of guns are being stolen out of cars, especially in the cities. We favor expanding background checks. That means that, you know, we would no longer have private vendors selling guns to other people without a background check. We support an assault weapon ban, and we support a limit on high capacity magazines. That means that there would be fewer bullets in a magazine or clip that attaches or goes inside an automatic or semi-automatic weapon. The reason for that is that shooters would have to stop and reload, and so the victims would have a little more time to get away. So to tell you a little bit more about red flag laws, we know that people who are in crisis and considering harming themselves or others often exhibit clear warning signs. Family members see these, and law enforcement see these in the course of their duties, you know, visiting with people or going to domestic violence situations. And the police that I've spoken to, they have a good sense, at least in small towns, of who shouldn't be armed. And an ERPO law would permit those people to petition a civil court for an order to temporarily remove guns from dangerous situations. And these are extremely dangerous situations. We're not talking about trivial situations. We're talking about people who are at imminent risk for harming themselves or others quickly. And that's what imminent means to me. So if the court finds that someone does pose a serious risk of injuring themselves or others with a firearm, that person is temporarily prohibited from purchasing and possessing guns. A good ERPO law has an emergency or an ex parte option so that guns could be confiscated immediately if the risk were very, very high. And within 8 to 10 days after that happens, everyone comes together in a full hearing. It's like a small trial, and the respondent, the person of concern, and the person who is concerned can bring all the evidence they want. Has to be behavioral evidence, has to be things they've observed the person doing or saying, not, oh, I think he's crazy. Well, no, that won't cut it. Has to be, he stood on the top of a building and pretended like he had an automatic rifle and was, going pow, pow, pow as people walk by on the street, clear demonstrations of instability and danger. The guns that they already own will be held by law enforcement or another authorized party while the order is in effect. Okay, next slide. I forgot to say this. During the course of the ERPO, which usually lasts a year, thank you, but sometimes 6 months, the person of concern can petition the judge to get his or her guns returned if he or she can prove and show evidence that they are not a danger any longer. Okay, moving on to safe storage. Like I said, our state does not require gun owners to securely store their guns anywhere, to tell you the truth. And a good secure storage law would require gun owners to lock up unattended guns in a glove box, console, trunk, or other storage device out of sight in their vehicles or boats. It would also require people to lock up their guns at home. Gun owners would be required by law to report lost or stolen guns within 24 hours of the incident. We don't have a law that imposes a penalty on someone who fails to secure an unattended firearm and leaves it accessible to an unsupervised minor. That usually happens in the home. And we believe there should be legal penalties for people who fail to secure their guns. You probably know that in the governor's proclamation or call about the special session, he's all about safe storage, but he won't allow anything to be filed that would include a penalty for someone who doesn't comply. Okay. Expanded background checks. 20 states have expanded background checks on all gun sales. Well, most private sales. And so they are exceeding the federal requirements. The closest state to us to do this is Virginia, and I think it's the only southern state. States do it differently. Many states exclude sales or gifts between family members because, if a father is giving a gun to a son, you hope that the father would know the child well enough to know that he or she would be a responsible, law-abiding gun owner. Or if there's an emergency transfer when someone wants to get a gun out of their home because they are having suicidal thoughts, they should just be able to get rid of that gun without having to go through a bunch of rigmarole. Some states don't require a background check on every gun sale. Instead, they require a special permit to buy any firearm, and that permit requires a background check. In Illinois, that's called a firearm owner's ID card, FOID. And if you remember, the Waffle House shooter was from Illinois. He had lost his FOID card because he tried to breach the White House, and had some other difficulties. But his father, very, very illegally and stupidly, gave that young man his gun, at least one of his guns, back. And that was when he came to Tennessee and shot up the Waffle House and killed 4 people in 2018. Okay, next. You all know that assault weapons are exceptionally deadly firearms that are commonly used in mass shootings. They fire far more bullets, far faster, than manual action hunting rifles. No respectable hunter hunts with an assault weapon. They're so lethal and brutal. They tear up the game, and you couldn't, eat what you shot if that was your purpose. We know that prohibiting assault weapons can prevent mass shooting injuries and death. 10 states do ban the sale and possession of assault weapons. The closest one to us is Maryland. No southern state has gotten this far yet. Illinois recently banned assault weapons, and their law was challenged in court, and the Illinois Supreme Court just about a week ago upheld their ban. So that was good news for Illinois. You all know that we had, a federal assault weapons ban bill has been filed by Senator Feinstein. It is sitting wherever bills that nobody's paying any attention to sit in Washington. And we did have a federal assault weapons ban in America from 1994 to 2004, but it was not re-upped. So, like we said, large capacity magazines are often used in mass shootings because they allow the shooter to keep firing without having to stop to reload. Then we favor a magazine with 10 or fewer rounds so that the person would have to stop to reload. Yeah. Okay. Carol, what's going to happen at special session? You're muted.
Oops, let me go back.
There we go. So, well, the proclamation has tried really hard to not mention guns at all, except in the context of safe storage, encouraging the safe storage of firearms, except without any penalties. So what we are expecting is that mental health is going to be brought up. We're going to talk about things like strengthening maybe schools. Army teachers may be brought up. We do know that there is no hope of ERPO being brought up or any kind of background check expansion. So really any of the things that we feel like, or banning assault weapons. So any of the things that we feel like would really make a difference. I think there's going to be a lot of skirting around the edges about this. Anything but guns, anything but limiting guns is basically what it's going to be.
There is, if you go to capital.tn.gov, you can see the bills that have been filed so far, and I'll run through a few of them that I saw just about an hour ago. Somebody has proposed a Medicare waiver for people receiving care in a mental institution. Moms is not going to weigh in a whole lot on the mental health bills because that's not in our wheelhouse. We're gun safety and gun violence prevention. We're not experts, but I'm going to share some of this with you. They talked about people receiving care in a hospital for mental diseases. It is really antiquated language. They definitely are going to work on improving the transfer of information into our background check system, and we would definitely support that. Right now, law enforcement agencies across the state have 30 days to send the TBI information about criminal proceedings. And so if somebody's been convicted of or placed under a restraining order or an order of protection, they would have 30 days to get that information to TBI. Well, they're going to bump that up to 72 hours. And we certainly would support that because we need good current info in our background check system so we can make sure we aren't selling guns to people who aren't legally able to have them. Safe storage, as Carol said, they're going to give out free gun locks. Well, that's just great. We've been giving out gun locks forever, and a lot of other people do too. There'll be no tax on safety devices, like safes, etc. That's good. But you know, it's not a lot. But no penalties if you don't store your gun correctly or report it. Another proposal would say you're criminally responsible if you transfer a gun to a minor who then goes on to commit mass violence or threaten mass violence. That's okay. It's a little bit late. Another proposal says it would be a Class D felony to induce or coerce a minor to steal a gun, or to commit a robbery with a stolen gun. Okay, so we would penalize somebody who coerced a young person, 18 or younger, to steal a gun or commit a gun crime. Rep. Gillespie in Memphis wants to set up a grant program to fund and incentivize mental health professionals coming here to work, because as you all know, we don't have enough mental health professionals to take care of all the people that we think we're going to be able to, or that they're going to propose serving throughout our state. The worst one so far is Bolso of Williamson County. Private school gun carry on campus. I know that gun carry on campus is illegal in public schools. I didn't have time to check this out. I'm under the impression that private schools have always had the ability to decide to have guns on their campus. Don't quote me. I think that's true. But now he's going to, maybe not, because he's proposing that private schools should be able to arm their teachers. Of course, they were armed teachers at Covenant, and it's a private school. So I think they've always been able to do that. We'll have to find out about this. That's the latest. Only House bills have been filed so far. I didn't see anything from the Senate today. But as Carol said, they're doing, anything but the guns. We're not surprised. We're closer to gun reform right now than we've ever been, but not much closer. I don't think they're going to do anything I don't think they're going to do anything that the people really, really want them to do.
No.
We definitely need to overhaul and build back our mental health system in our state. We had a pretty good community mental health system in the 70s, and the majority party dismantled it and took away funding and closed down our mental health institutions, which we all thought was a great thing, but kind of put people out on the street. And so, your average Tennessean doesn't know where to turn if you've got a child you're concerned about, unless you have a lot of money. Vanderbilt psychiatric ward department can't take care of all the children in Davidson County who need mental health support. So, that's a whole nother ball game. I don't see how they can possibly pull that off next week, and it's not going to cause our gun death and injury rate to go down, I don't think.
And I think we're also probably going to be talking about human trafficking.
Yeah. I don't know what
Not
that's
that
about.
that's not a real thing.
Right. And we are hearing about, I saw something in the chat, we're hearing about trying young people as adults,
Yeah.
more jail time, all that stuff. That's just what they go, that's their default, is
Right.
jail time and
Punishment.
punishment. They have no concept of prevention.
Right.
It's just, we're just allergic to that here. It's just, we just cannot wrap our minds around how do you prevent bad things from happening.
And we can address further questions when we get to the Q&A as well.
Okay. That's what Carol and I think is going to happen next week, today.
If other people have other ideas, we can bring them up at that time. Great. Thank you both for giving us a glimpse from your perspective. All right. It's time for another poll. Has our gun violence epidemic caused you to change things in your daily life? Tracy, if you could give us a poll. Let's see, we've got 53 out of 69 responding. That seems pretty good. Oh, got a few more coming in. I think that's good. So the majority has, yes, indeed. We feel like gun violence has changed our lives. We can talk a little bit more about why and how just a little bit later, because we're close to the end of the actual presentation. Thank you. Moving on in just a minute. Okay. Linda,
Okay, so
now can you take us through some things that we can ask people to do to help?
yeah. So you can visit the governor's online form. I know probably many of you guys have. That's the link there if you haven't. You can call his office. Tell him what you want him to do. We recommend, please reach out to your state house member, your senator, and tell them what you want them to do, that you support an ERCO, a safe storage law, and a limit on high capacity magazines. We feel like this is really important if you live in a small town or rural area. These are the areas that we have that mostly Republicans are representing, and we want people to speak out there. Please talk to your friends about this. People at work, family member, ask them to do one of the things above, one or two. If you want to join Moms Demand Action and join our efforts, please text READY to 64433. You can also text TN to that number, and you can be connected to a lawmaker in leadership to express your views. The other thing that we say is, hey, come on down. Come down and show the legislature that gun safety matters to Tennesseans. And we want them to take action, that this is the time to do it. So the thing that impresses them the most is numbers, people showing up, people being loud. So we just really urge you to do one or all of those things.
Okay, so that is the conclusion of our presentation part with with Linda and Carol and Jeannie. And I see there's what we're going to do is just go through the questions in the chat. We don't have a way to see you raise your hand, or at least I haven't figured that out. Tracy, if there's a question, if there's someone you want to highlight has their hand raised who hasn't written in the chat and you can figure that out, that'd be great. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go down through the questions. The first is from Kimberly, who asks, so they take all this information for the permit. Is there a database of these people?
Yes, I don't believe you can find out at the Department of Safety and Homeland Security how many people from which counties have which kind of permit, but you cannot find out their names. That's private information.
Mhm.
There's a very good one pager at their website that shows every county in Tennessee and how many people have permits. It's interesting to see where they are everywhere.
Next question from Cynthia. What possible objection would the Tennessee Firearms Association or NRA have to safe storage? This is not a threat to the Second Amendment that I can imagine. Cynthia writes us. Little question?
I heard John Harris yesterday. I was on a panel with him. He's the leader of the Tennessee Firearms Association. And he was talking about the Bruin decision, which was a Supreme Court decision about a year ago that Clarence Thomas wrote the leading opinion on. John was saying that they don't support secure storage. And he said, well, you may know that part of the argument in Bruin is that gun laws that don't directly relate to the way things were in 1791 are not constitutional. And so because we didn't have cars in 1789 when the Second Amendment was written, Jeannie's hiding her face. A law that required safe storage in cars would be questionable and would not pass what they call the Bruin test. So that's one answer to that question.
Yeah, I would say that also, yeah, and that pretty much sums it up. But I mean, most of us have heard of constitutional carry. I can't tell you that I've heard or talked to one Republican lawmaker that doesn't bring up constitutional carry. But that is what they are really sold out to. So marry that with the financial support they're getting from gun organizations, and you've got like super glue. Okay. Constitutional carry just basically means anyone, anywhere, anytime, and any place can carry a gun. And then everyone should be able to buy guns and purchase them and not have any restrictions, because requiring responsibility or accountability is somehow presuming that person is not going to be responsible.
We have a couple of questions on the special session itself. I'll read them together. What color should people wear? And where is the meetup? Perhaps Linda or Carol, you could put that in the chat where people should meet up, or we could follow up in some kind of communication. And then also, does Moms have a specific day and time during the special sessions that they'll be showing up so that we can have our presence in numbers?
We will be there every day.
I had a feeling that was the answer.
And we think it'll last through Friday, the 25th. But for sure, the first 3 days, 21st through the 23rd. We'll be there every day. We wear red. Orange is another good color. That's the International Gun Safety color. I saw Roseanne in the chat wanted us to announce about 8:30 on Monday morning, the 21st. Hundreds of people, we hope hundreds of people will show up at Legislative Plaza at 8:30, and we're going to walk across Charlotte and circle the Capitol. This is a prayer activity, but you don't have to be a praying person. We're just going to hold hands around the Capitol and hope for the best. Moms will have a what we're calling a war room on the 8th floor of Cordell Hall, 8C as in cat. You're welcome to come up there anytime during the week, and we will tell you what we know and get you involved in some activities and sign you up if you want to become a mom.
Another question is, have you had any feedback from teachers regarding their willingness to be armed in the classroom?
Well, we certainly had a lot of it when we were fighting arming teachers earlier this last session. That was this year, right, Carol?
Yeah.
Okay. In March, it was before Covenant. Oh yeah, no, but teachers don't want it. Lots of opposition.
Are you aware of the Supreme Court will be taking up the issue of orders of protection and domestic assault exclusions to carry?
I am. That's the Rahimi case that they are going to be looking at in the next few months. That it will be so extreme. We can only hope they won't go along with it, but it will say that domestic abusers should not have to dispossess of their weapons. They should be able to be armed. It would overturn many years of law and policy about domestic abusers and they're not being armed. So it'll
And-
be a huge decision.
And no question about it, more people will die.
Yeah.
So if the goal is to decrease gun violence and deaths, that is going the incredibly opposite direction.
Another question. I'm just taking them as they come, not grouping them by type. Do you anticipate anything happening for mental health? And I know you addressed it a little bit, but the question is here in the chat. Would you like to expand a little bit on that?
Oh, I think, I mean, I've seen one bill that said that Sapicki, it didn't look bad to me, but it's a huge mental health bill to reinstitute the mental health institutes, to reactivate them that we used to have and set up a system of community mental health centers, and sounds great. It's we're not going to speak about that because that's not what we do. But I mean, we all want mental health services for our people, but it's not the mentally ill people who are doing the killing. They're more likely to get killed. So this connection of, the answer to our gun violence epidemic is mental health care is false.
A question from a different type is, what other organizations does Moms Demand Action work with?
We have some wonderful partners like the League of Women Voters. In our state, we are partners with Awake, Advocates for Women and Kids Equality. We are partners with the NAACP. We are partners with, we have about 20, and of course I'm going blank right now. We don't have a good relationship because we haven't figured it out yet with our immigrant community, but we want to reach out and are going to reach out to the Latinx community, especially in Davidson County and in the cities, because we want to know more about them, and they are disproportionately affected by gun violence. More black and brown people die a lot more than white people. And so we that's on our horizon.
A question.
Yes, we
Go
are
ahead.
connected with students, Demand Action as well. Moms Against Murder. There are many people that are doing, they have their slice of the work in the area. And we come alongside them anytime we can, and they come alongside us. So we look at this as a very collaborative effort, and we want to reach out, and every single direction when we have goals that are intersecting.
I see Judge Hayes is on. Hi, Robin. She's making it clear that that Rahimi case that I mentioned is the Supreme Court of the United States. What about Voices for a Safer Tennessee? We are friends with them. We're friends with the Covenant Families for Brighter Tomorrows. We're friends with anybody who wants to help us get this death rate down.
Also mentioned is Chloe Akers in the Liminal Plan, which is a relatively new organization. So, and a question if you know them or in contact with them.
You told us about them, Marilyn, I think.
Probably did, yeah.
Yeah, and
We did.
we have never communicated with them, but we'll put them on our list.
Mhm. So a question is, how do we get legislators who are not in the pockets of the NRA and the gun lobby elected? I don't know if there's an answer to that.
Well, how do we do that? How do we get good people elected who will pass gun sense laws that we need and deserve? Well, we just have to get out there and find the candidates and get them ready for next summer, because everybody in the House is up next summer in the Tennessee House. And, you know, they're nervous. That's why they're going to do something about guns, because they know that if they do nothing, we can throw that up at them next summer. So they're going to do a little something.
And I think getting out in these communities and having forums, and we're doing that. We're getting out to rural communities. We're reaching out to people across the state. Our volunteers are reaching out and doing community meetings. And just, it's such common sense that we feel like we can find common ground with people. And we know that Republicans and Democrats alike throughout the state, I mean, there are many of each one of us that want safe gun laws, gun owners, law enforcement, you know, veterans. You know, they see the sense in having ERPO laws, you know, complete background check, stronger background check system, assault weapon ban. I mean, many of these people do not want assault weapons to be out in our public spaces.
This, not sure this was answered, so I'll just ask it again. Regarding domestic abusers, is that Tennessee Supreme Court or SCOTUS?
SCOTUS.
So I thought, okay, let's see. Let's see if there are other, there's a lot of good commentary here. Do you know about the 28th Amendment Governor Gavin Newsom of California is promoting?
I know that he is promoting it. I have not taken the time to study what he's doing. I know that he is coming to town on the weekend of the 25th with what they call the first partner. His wife, I think. They call her the first partner. And she's going to be they're going to be here that weekend for a political event, and the first partner has asked to have a sit down with moms on that Saturday morning. So we'll open that up and welcome her to town, see what they're up to.
So I just looked up 28th constitutional amendment, gives states the power to regulate firearms and protect the work that is being done to keep our families safe. So I assume that that means that that would override any federal laws that would make things wide open, that the states themselves could decide.
That's a very interesting idea. I believe he's getting ready to run for something. Don't y'all think so?
Could be. Could be.
We have another question on mental health. Is the mental health portion of work linked to the homeless concerns?
I have not seen anything like that.
Would you say that again, Marilyn? I'm sorry.
Is mental health linked to homeless concerns? I'm not sure in the context of gun safety exactly what the question is, but that's the way the question is phrased.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can comment that is, you know, like as concerns gun violence, but it sounds like there might be a component there, but what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Mhm.
You know, someone becomes homeless and then they become mentally ill, or someone's mentally ill and then they become homeless. I don't know how that works.
Before we go or anyone signs off, we will make this recording available to people. I thank everyone for attending. If there is a question still that we have missed either in the Q&A or the chat, please put it in there now in case I zoomed by and didn't see it. There's some practical information for everybody to read. People are sharing some good things to know. Otherwise, I thank everyone, especially Linda, Carol, and Jeannie from Moms Demand Action for providing content and this opportunity for us to all be together about this very important issue. I do have a question. How do you have a well-regulated militia without regulation? There you go. That's a good ending question, Rebecca. I guess the question is, how do you make it well-regulated if you don't have regulation? Sort of, that's the question.
We choose not to talk about that.
Mhm.
We don't. But it seems like our legislators are choosing not to talk about that.
Mhm. Well, again, thank you everybody for attending. This is time well spent. We at the League very much appreciate. I may have one more question here. I see another question may have come up. Let's see. Do you think it's a good idea to email legislatures who do not represent you to tell them your thoughts if they're on committees? But what do you all think? I mean, the ones who are your representatives are more inclined to be responsive. But if you're writing for somebody because they're on the committee and you don't have a representative on that committee, it certainly makes sense. What do you think, Carol and Linda?
I
Well,
think you
yeah,
write to the senators and House members who are on the committees that are, you know, looking at the bills, but just some kind of random email to somebody, no. They just, I think most of the emails we send, they delete anyway without reading them.
So there have been a few questions about how you find bills on capitaltn.gov. It takes you to the legislation section, and sometimes you can, if someone's provided the bill number, you can look it up that way. You can also just do it by topic, and you'll find a lot of bills. I'll see if there's something that we can do to publish that. But the easiest thing to do is just go in and look by topic, and you'll find a lot of things that way. How is militia in Second Amendment? Okay, I'm not sure we can answer this. How is the militia in Second Amendment different from the militia covered by Constitution Article 1, Section 8? I'm not sure that's a question you can answer.
I can't.
I can't.
That's why I preliminarily thought maybe you could. Faye, if you have an answer for us you'd like to share that you think is the answer, I think people appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll just have to let that one go because we don't have an answer. And I think that's the last question I see. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Please make your voice heard to your legislators, to the governor, to people in your community, to family members. Our biggest challenge is to be quiet, or rather not to be quiet.
And I'd like to just say one last thing. I'd really like to thank Jeannie for coming on and being with us and sharing her story. And we love you, Jeannie.
Thank you, everyone. So Tracy will be ending our webinar this evening, and again, we will get the thing posted. And thanks again. Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe.